Welcome to the deep dive. This is where you send us your sources, your questions, and we really try to unpack the key insights.
That's right.
And today, we've got a great listener request. We're diving into the middle core golfer.
Ah, yes. A really interesting topic.
It comes from some pretty extensive research, right? Like 25 years looking into body measurements, mechanics, all aimed at boosting power and consistency in the golf swing.
Exactly. And the core idea, pardon the pun, is that different body types, these core regions they identify, actually benefit from quite different swing styles.
Different stances, different techniques.
Precisely. And the middle core is this fascinating hybrid approach. It sits sort of between the upper and lower core styles.
Okay, so let's get into that. This research you mentioned, it really categorizes golfers based on their natural stance width.
Yeah, essentially. How wide you naturally, comfortably stand tends to correlate with whether you're more upper, middle, or lower core dominant. And the research shows each needs a tailored approach stance, setup, grip, the swing itself.
And the middle core player, they're the ones with that moderate stance. Not too wide, not too narrow.
That's generally it. They fall in between. And what makes them so interesting is how their swing pulls elements from both the upper and lower core types. The research even dubs their swing the gold standard swing.
Gold standard, okay, that definitely catches the ear. So, first things first, where is this middle core region physically?
Good question. According to this research, it spans the area from your navel, your belly button, up to the base of your sternum, your breastbone.
Got it. Navel to sternum. And the blend part, that gold standard quality, how does that actually play out in their swing?
Well, it really shows up in their mechanics. We mentioned the stance, it's that middle ground. But there are other things too. For instance, the research notes that middle core players often can't or don't comfortably bring their right arm way inside their right hip on the downswing.
Huh, that's specific. Almost like a physical marker for the type.
Sorta, yeah. It seems to be a natural tendency tied to their body structure and how they sequence the swing.
Okay, so stance is in the middle, arm position is a bit different. How does that affect the angles and the movement, the power generation?
It has a pretty direct impact. Let's take something called the carrying angle or power angle. It's basically the angle between the club shaft and your lead arm during the downswing.
Right, I've heard of that. Crucial for speed.
Absolutely. It's about efficient energy transfer. For a middle core player in their optimal stance, this angle is typically in the range of 152.5 to 158.5 degrees.
And that specific range, what does it allow for?
It seems to be the sweet spot for combining power with control in the release. And the key visual marker they point out is that at impact, the right elbow is right in line with the right hip.
Okay, so it's not tucked way behind or way in front.
Exactly, right there at the hip. And the research really emphasizes that these golfers get their power by using everything together, body, arms, hands, all sequenced correctly.
A very coordinated effort then. What about the grip? Does that also fit this middle ground theme?
It absolutely does. The typical grip for a middle core player is described as neutral.
Neutral grip. What does that look like?
Well, the research defines it like this. Imagine laying the club across your hands. The very end of the grip would cross over the first knuckle of the middle finger on both your left and right hands.
Okay, I can picture that. First knuckle, middle fingers.
Right. And that neutral grip tends to lead naturally to a moderate amount of shaft lean when you address the ball. And as we said, that intermediate stance width.
Oh, it all connects.
It really does. They even use a photo of Adam Scott in the research material to show this exact grip. He's a classic example of a middle core player. Seeing it makes it quite clear.
Yeah, seeing a pro like Scott helps visualize it. Okay, so we've got the grip. What about their posture? How they stand over the ball before they even swing?
Their posture also has distinct characteristics. The research notes that their spine angle is usually a bit larger, a bit more upright than their thigh angle relative to the ground.
More upright spine.
Okay. Yeah, typically falling within that same overall angle range we mentioned earlier, 152.5 to 158.5 degrees, but often averaging around 154 to 156 for the spine itself.
And are there specific players besides Scott who exemplify this posture?
Well, they mentioned both Adam Scott and Ernie Els specifically for their posture. If you picture how they set up to the ball, that's characteristic of the middle core type.
Els, yeah. I can see that. Kind of tall, balanced.
Exactly. And again, that visual cue of the right arm being positioned near the right hip during the downswing is really prominent with them.
Right, you mentioned that arm position earlier.
Yeah, and another interesting visual from the downswing looking face on, the shaft often looks like it's bisecting their upper body. right down the middle. You see that clearly with Scott.
Splitting them down the middle.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then at the moment of impact, the butt end of the grip points right towards the center of their body, towards that middle core region. Both Scott and Els show that really well.
So the setup really does seem to set the stage for the whole motion. How does that posture and balance translate into the backswing for them?
Good question. The initiation is key. Middle core players tend to start the backswing using their upper middle body, basically. The shoulders, arms, and hands move away together as a single unit first.
Shoulders, arms, hands first, then the hips.
Then the hips follow. Exactly. Their hip rotation will generally be greater than what you see in a lower core player, but maybe not quite as much as a very dominant upper core player.
So again, that middle ground idea.
Precisely. And other markers. Their left knee often points towards the back of where the ball would be. The amount of separation or twist between their lower and upper body at the top is also intermediate.
Not too much, not too little separation.
Right. And at the very top of the backswing, a few things stand out. Their shoulder plane is usually neutral, not too steep or too flat. Their center of gravity feels centered right over their pelvis. Very balanced.
Yeah.
And if you look at their hands, the right hand is typically positioned on the side of the grip, and the right forearm is often vertical, straight up and down, or maybe angled just slightly outside that line.
Okay, that's a detailed picture of the backswing. So how do they unwind? What does the downswing sequence look like?
The downswing is essentially the backswing in reverse order. It starts with the lower body. The hips and shoulders begin to rotate back towards the target.
Hips and shoulders lead the way down.
Yes, and then the arms and hands follow through that sequence. And remember those visuals. The shaft bisecting the middle core on the way down.
Yeah, splitting the body.
And the grip end pointing back to that middle core at impact. That still holds true. And that right elbow position we talked about, tucking in near the right hip. That's crucial during the downswing for slotting the club and delivering power.
Okay. And how rotated are they at the actual moment of impact?
Typically, their hips have opened up, rotated towards the target, somewhere between 45 and 60%.
45 to 60% open. And the power delivery itself.
It's described as a combination of lateral motion, a slight shift towards the target, and rotation, resulting in about a 45-degree sort of diagonal release of the club head down the target line.
Diagonal release. Interesting. Balance seems absolutely critical through all of this. How do they maintain stability?
You're right. Balance is fundamental.
Okay.
The research emphasizes that from address all the way through the swing, their weight tends to stay slightly forward of the middle of their arches, but still behind the balls of their feet.
Not on the heels, not way up on the toes.
Exactly. That specific balance point seems key, and it allows them to tap into power from the ground really effectively. The research highlights that they use all three types of ground reaction forces.
All three. What are they?
There's linear force, which is like the push sideways or forward back. There's rotational force, the twisting against the ground. And there's vertical force, pushing upwards. Middle core players leverage all of them.
Wow. So they're really using the ground in every way possible.
Seems that way. It's a very efficient use of ground forces.
That makes a lot of sense. Could you give us a few more names, pro golfers we might recognize, who fit this middle core profile?
Sure. We've mentioned Adam Scott and Ernie Els. The research also lists players like Cameron Champ, John Rahm, Jason Day. Even Justin Thomas is often put in this category.
Okay. Quite a few big names there. Rahm, Day, JT. Interesting.
Yeah. And it also notes that on the LPGA Tour, you see a lot of players who fall into either the lower core or middle core categories.
Fewer upper core dominant players on the LPGA.
Generally, according to this research, yes. But it's important to remember, like we said, it's a spectrum. Even within the middle core group, some players might lean slightly more towards upper core traits, others slightly more towards lower core.
Right. It's not a rigid box, more like a set of tendencies.
Exactly. It's a framework for understanding, not a strict classification for every single player.
So, okay, let's say someone listening thinks, some of that sounds familiar. Maybe that's a bit like my swing. What are the big takeaways for them? Or is there maybe a simple drill or feeling they could try?
Well, the biggest takeaway, consistently, seems to be the balance. Nailing that weight distribution slightly forward of mid-arch, behind the balls of the feet is huge.
Balance, balance, balance.
And ball position, typically middle of the stance for most clubs. But yes, the research does suggest a kind of simplified movement exercise to get a feel for it.
Oh, cool. Something practical. How does it work?
Okay, so you'd stand with your feet just slightly inside shoulder width. Imagine the ball is in the middle, maybe slightly front middle of your stance.
Got it. Feet slightly narrow, ball middle.
Now extend your right hand out, palm flat. fingers straight, pointing away from you, perpendicular to your body line.
Okay, right hand out, palm flat.
Now, bring your right elbow, so it's positioned just in front of the center of your body, near your right hip, but keep those fingers pointing straight ahead. This simulates that neutral arm and hand position at setup.
Ah, okay. Elbow by the hip, fingers straight.
And get your weight set slightly forward to the middle of your arches, just behind the balls of your feet.
Right, that key balance point.
Now, really slowly, start a backswing just by moving your shoulders, arms, and that right hand together as one unit. Keep the fingers pointing straight for as long as you can.
Okay, slow takeaway, keeping it connected.
When your right hand gets to maybe a 30 or 40-degree angle relative to your target line, then release your hips and let them start turning, continuing your upper body rotation.
Hips release after the initial takeaway.
Yeah. And focus on feeling centered over your pelvis during that backswing. Then start the downswing, but rotating your hips back towards the target, really focusing on keeping that balance feeling in your feet.
Okay, feeling the hip rotation leading down, staying balanced.
What you should feel, hopefully, is a hip release that feels less restricted than a pure lower core swing, but maybe not quite as freewheeling as a pure upper core turn, that intermediate
A
feeling.
middle ground again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You might also notice a tiny lateral shift back towards where the ball would be, and maybe a slight tendency to stand up a little through impact, losing posture just slightly. The overall feeling should be that blend.
That's a really great exercise. It gives you a tangible sense of that coordinated, balanced sequence.
Hopefully, yeah. It's about feeling that connection in the sequence.
So just to sort of wrap this up, the middle core golfer, it really is about this equilibrium, isn't it? This smooth blend of upper and lower body working together.
That sums it up well. Their whole setup, stance, grip, balance facilitates this integrated movement. It allows them to tap into ground forces efficiently using linear, rotational, and vertical power sources.
Right. Upper body starts it back, lower body leads it down, that right elbow slots in. It's a very synergistic motion when done well.
Absolutely. Synchronized and powerful, yet controlled. The gold standard, perhaps.
Well, this has been incredibly insightful, really digging into what makes the middle core swing tick. It just shows how much nuance there is in golf and how understanding these concepts can give you a new lens to watch the pros or even think about your own game.
Definitely.
And that brings up a final thought for you, our listeners. Even if you're not a golfer, think about this. How might this idea of different core engagement, this blend of upper and lower body initiation, apply elsewhere? Could you see similar patterns in other sports, other athletic movements?
Interesting question.
Is there a middle core approach to throwing a baseball or swimming or even just everyday movements? Something to ponder. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.